A very good morning to you. How are you doing? Welcome to Jam 316. It is Wednesday, and Wednesdays we have what we call the Financial Clinic, where we talk matters finances. And we're in a very interesting season. Children are going back to school. We are still trying to get the wheels turning, getting our children to go back to school. So a very interesting article in the papers today talking about school fees, which is a challenge for many parents. You know, going back to school has come with quite a number of issues. For many parents, they have to buy uniform again because our children are growing and being at home for 6-7 months. Some have outgrown their uniform. There was a very, very interesting video that was trending a couple of days ago of this mother who's trying to fit the uniform on her child, and the child has basically grown uniform height to shade. So there's that to think about. Shoes, you know, I don't know how their feet grow so fast. You have to think of uniform, you have to think of shoes, and then the school fees, and then there's the whole issue of masks and everything. And so it's a huge financial burden to parents, considering the fact that some parents did lose their jobs, other parents, their businesses are not doing so well, and there's quite a big challenge financially. So today we want to look at that and ask ourselves, are there other options when it comes to school fees? Are there other avenues that we can begin to look at? And even thinking forward, how do we prepare for a situation like this? That's what we're going to be looking at today on the Financial Clinic, inviting your questions. Wazazi, if you're having challenges with school fees in this season, what are some of those challenges? You can let us know. If you have questions, you can ask them. 20316 is the SMS line, and the WhatsApp number is 0786 316 316. So, Financial Clinic right here on Family TV and Family Radio 316. Thank you so much for taking the time to hook up with us on this lovely, lovely day. As I said, Financial Clinic, leo tunaangalia mambo ya school fees and trying to look at what other options do parents have when it comes to issues that they're facing right now. In studio with us via Zoom, Susan Gishuru, who is the founder and CEO of the Legacy Hub Kenya. She is an economist and a finance and investment professional. She is also a certified life coach and a professional finance coach. Susan, that's a mouthful. How are you?
Fine, thank you, Pasti. How are you?
I'm very fine. Good to have you on the show today. We are waiting to...
I am honored to be here. Thank you.
We are really looking forward to hearing from you. So with all the challenges, man, I mean, the financial burden on the parents is huge, and this is not something that we had anticipated. I'm just wondering, how do you deal with something like this?
So first of all, thank you so much for having me here. I'm very glad to be here, very glad to be having this very important conversation. Mm-hmm. Now, of course, this is some sort of emergency, right?
Yeah,
because most parents anticipate that children are going to go back to school, right? Mm-hmm. Now, in the case of an emergency, there's very little reaction time, right?
Yeah.
Because kids need to go to school as soon as possible, as soon as the government, and we've started seeing Form 4 kids going back to school, Class 8 kids going back to school, and we are expecting that other levels are also going to start going back.
Yes.
Now, in this case of an emergency, there's very little that you can do to rectify the situation. So what we are doing right now is damage control, right? So we are looking at issues such as, can parents liquidate an asset, number one, right? Because you don't want to jump into debt unless that's the last option, okay? So we want to look at, are there assets that we can liquidate because of this purpose? Are there some investments or savings that we can draw from what we already have? Are there projects in the homestead that we can forfeit for the purposes of children going to school? If that is not possible, then we are looking at a lot of parents getting into debt, right?
Okay.
And when it comes to debt...
Yeah, in fact, sorry for cutting you short. Talking about the whole issue of debt, you know, I kind of think a lot of parents were already in that space because Corona happened suddenly, people lost their jobs without notice, and things were just all over the place, you know. And I think one of the things that had settled a bit in our hearts as parents is we had been told that, you know what, let's wait until next year for school. And then suddenly, voila, next week. So I'm tending to feel like there are quite a number of parents who are already in debt, so to speak, and that's how they've been managing to survive over the last 6 or 7 months. And so it's almost like adding wanasemaje, kuongeza chumvi kwa kidonda.
To injury.
Yes.
I know.
Yeah.
I know. Now, one of the things that I train people on, because I am a personal finance coach, is that building an emergency fund is non-negotiable. Okay, and this is one of the things that most Kenyans and most Africans don't understand what it is. Now, what exactly is an emergency fund? An emergency fund is not an account where you have money and then when things like small emergencies come, you just chovia from there, right? An emergency fund, the accurate definition of an emergency fund is an account where you have saved up a minimum of up to 6 months of your total living expenses, including your non-monthly expenses. And that is a minimum, all right?
Yeah.
The recommended emergency fund should be for 1 year, all right?
Wow.
So why do we need an emergency fund of a minimum of 6 months to 1 year? I mean, look at the job market right now. If you lose your job, you're probably going to need between 3 months to a year. I mean, I've known people who have waited up to up to even 2 years for them to get another job.
Yeah.
So how are you going to continue sustaining the current lifestyle that you live in? How are you going to continue paying rent? How are you going to continue taking your kids to school in the case of either a long illness, number one, or two, been laid off for one reason or the other? Now, one of the things that everyone should prioritize the moment you get a job, as young as 20, 25, to build an emergency fund. And how do you build an emergency fund? You don't build it overnight. It is a long-term goal, okay?
Yeah.
So you put aside whether it's 5,000 or 10,000 every month without fail. And you designate that amount of money to go into your emergency fund, because what we are seeing right now is typical Kenyan behavior, typical African behavior. Most Kenyans right now are one emergency away from a financial crisis, and Corona showed us that.
Yeah, Corona did show us that. I love what you're sharing. We usually think about an emergency fund and we think that's probably something that people who have a lot of money to spare engage in.
No.
You know, so when you try to talk to people about creating an emergency fund, they tell you, my friend, what I get is not even enough for my monthly needs. Alafu unaniambia nianze kuweka emergency fund. You know, I'm the one who needs to be given emergency money. You know, what percentage would you say is advisable for somebody to start putting away in an emergency fund? Because I think Corona has made us start thinking differently.
Yeah, it has, and it should, as it should. So there is, as a rule of thumb, there's a budgeting rule, and it is called the 50-30-20 budgeting rule. Okay. Which stipulates that 50% of your total income, your net income, we are more interested in net, not gross, right?
Yes.
Because net is what comes into our account, right? So 50% of your total income is what should go to mandatory bills and expenses. If it exceeds that, we are probably living way above our means, which is another problem I have noticed working with Kenyans, right? We are trying to impress the Jonases, we are trying to impress our relatives, we are buying cars we can't afford, living in houses we can't afford, and as a result, all of our salary goes to bills, right, and expenses, and we have nothing left to save. But if you use the 50-30-20 rule, you should ideally, it's the ideal situation. It is not what most Kenyans do, all right, but it's what most Kenyans should be working towards, to limit their bills and expenses within 50% of their total net income. Now, 30% should go to savings and investments. Now, under savings and investments, I would like to break this down. There are three most important things that we should focus on under savings and investment. The first thing is your emergency fund, and as I've described, this is money that you put aside for a rainy day. And the rainy days that we are talking about is Corona season. We've seen that. It's when a loved one, or for one reason or the other, you're bedridden for more than 3 to 6 months. or even a year. It's when one of the spouses is unwell and there's only one income in the household. So unless such an emergency has happened, you should ideally not touch that money.
Yeah.
All right. So and the other thing is it needs to be put in an interest generating. So you can either put it in a fixed deposit account or in a money market fund. All right. So and that one should not be touched. The second very important saving account that everyone should have is what we call sinking funds. Now, this would really come in handy right now in this season because a sinking fund is an account, a separate savings account where you save up for your non-monthly expenses and short-term projects. And one of the best ways of saving up for school fees is a sinking fund. So it's like an account for a specific purpose.
Yes.
All right.
Yes.
So if I know that I have to pay school fees every quarter, or rather every 4 months, right? So I know if I pay in January, I have a break all the way till May.
Yeah.
Right. So for the 5 months, instead of running helter skelter in April, wondering where school fees is coming, if I knew in May I needed 50,000, then I need to find a way to at least put aside 10,000. Every month, until when that period comes, all I have to do is withdraw the 40 or 50,000 and pay it.
Yeah.
All right.
Yeah.
So that's what you use a sinking fund for, and even things like Christmas. We act like Christmas is a surprise, and it never comes on 24th or 26th. It comes on the 25th every year, and we still end up spending all our December salary. All right, enjoying ourselves on Christmas. Yet, if I put aside 1,000 bob every month towards Christmas savings, I'd have a whooping 12,000 at the end of the year to just enjoy without touching my salary.
Very true.
That's the second savings account. The third one is a home ownership fund. That's one of the things that we need to prioritize. This fund is best saved up for in a circle so that you can be able to get very lenient credit facilities to buy your pieces of land, to do your mjengo projects. So you see that 30% you can do 10. Yes. 10%, 10% towards your emergency fund, 10% towards your sinking fund, and 10% towards your home ownership, because those are the three most pertinent issues, right? Emergencies, our non-monthly expenses such as school fees, car insurance, health insurance, and then now we have the housing issue, all right?
Yeah.
And one of the things I like telling people when it comes to this 30%, I keep saying that whenever you cannot save, most times if we are being very honest with ourselves, it's never an earning problem. It is a spending problem.
Oh.
It is a spending problem. So you need to pay yourself fast. And paying yourself fast. Exactly. So we spend and then we are saying, okay, kama pesa itabaki, that's what I'm going to use.
Yes.
But really, you need to, if you don't intentionally take away the 30% and save it, you'll never have money to save. So it has to be intentional. It has to be done fast before anything else is done. So that you're left with your 70%. And then with that 70% unapambana na hali yako.
Let me ask you a question, Susan, that I know somebody's asking, so let me ask it on their behalf. Even with that framework that you've given us, that person who's earning 20K a month, 25K a month, they're thinking, Susan, is that workable for me? Yes.
Yeah.
What would you tell them?
See, that's the thing that's the mean. You see, how do you determine whether you're living your means? Within your means. How you're living is determined by your income. Okay? So I see a lot of people, like someone who's earning 30K and living in a house of 15K is living way above their means. Because 50% of your money is going to housing. How much then will go to food? How much then will go to saving? How much then will go to school fees?
Yeah.
All right? And this is another thing and this is a conversation that I love having with my clients. I love encouraging people to start thinking of additional sources of income.
Yeah.
All right? Because a salary income will never be enough to help you achieve financial freedom for most people, right? And at the same time, you're still almost at the mercy of your employer, right? So we need to start, you see, like, look at the Western culture. You find people working 2 to 3 jobs.
Yes.
Yeah, but in Kenya, we come, you do your 8 to 5, you come back home, you're just seated on the couch, watching your TV, living your best life. Yet, you could be doing an online job where, because I've seen, and especially in this season, I've really enjoyed watching young people adjust to this current situation.
Yes.
I'm seeing a lot of people doing jobs like virtual assistant. So you see, like, there's this big personality and they need someone to just be picking their calls, replying their emails. You can do that from the comfort of your house, right?
Yes.
I'm seeing a lot of people doing online writing jobs. I'm seeing a lot of people start small businesses of selling baby stuff, jewelry, baking some cakes, making some food stuff to sell. So we need to think out of the employment box. Right?
Yes.
Every time you realize that your income is not enough, there are two things to ask. Do I need to cut costs or do I need to increase income? You can't avoid any one of these two.
Wow. I have a friend of mine who keeps saying that we should we should stop telling people to live below their means. Instead, we should start telling people to increase their means.
Amen to that.
Yeah.
Because we are capable. We are capable. It's just that, and this is one of the things most people ask me, like in my business, I'll give you an example with my business, my coaching business.
Yes.
I'm trained in finance. I was employed for 3 years, all right, in an investment firm. And I left employment. Now, there's a point I was very confused because I never used to think that I'm good at anything other than keying in numbers.
Wow.
All right. But I've actively served in ministry in our church since I was in high school, all right? I've served in the youth ministry for over 5 years. I'm currently also serving in ministry. And you see, I think it's those things that you just think, okay, there's nothing to this. So I didn't know. I knew I was good with people, but I didn't know that I can make money off of that, right? So I'm very good with people skills. In fact, majority of my friends and the people who work with me would say, hey, Susan, I just find myself telling you everything about my life, and I come out of that discussion feeling so good, feeling so nice, and feeling very motivated. Now, you see, my training is in finance. My training is in investing. All right. My training is in money and numbers. But then again, I have this natural gifting. I'm a very good orator. I'm a very good communicator. I absolutely love talking to people and working with people. Now, the question here is, how was I going to merge my expertise and something that comes so naturally to me, which is talking, right?
Yes.
So, and that's how my coaching business was born. And I don't want to take all the full credit because that had to be identified for me by a mentor and by a coach. And this is one of the things I became a coach because I am the benefit. I am a beneficiary of a coach. Exactly, right? And so because there's something called the Johari's Windows concept, where we have, there are things, the first window is there are things that you know about yourself that people know about you. That's the first window. And there are things you know about yourself that other people don't know about you. The third window is there are things that you don't know about yourself and other people don't know about you. And the fourth window, which is really key, is there are things that you don't know about yourself that other people know about you. All right. So some people will come, those things, I keep asking people when they come to my class, I have a class called Passion, Purpose, and Profit. And in that class, one of the things I strongly believe is that the things you're truly passionate about, the things that come naturally to you, whether it's talking, singing, whether it is cooking, whether it's people skills, I strongly believe that what people are passionate about is exactly where their God-given purpose lies. And where your purpose lies, your money lies there too.
Wow.
So the trick is to access how you can monetize the things you love to do. So I get a lot of people coming to tell me, oh, I'm just employed, I don't know. And I ask them, what bothers you most? When you're watching news, when you're in church serving, what bothers you most? Or what is that one thing that if you had money, you would change it, right? Or what's the one thing that you do at your free time that just comes so naturally to you? And a lot of people are like, oh, I talk, oh, I draw. And I kept telling people, I never knew for the longest time that I would make money talking to people. And that's my bread and butter, Monday to Sunday. So I merged my expertise, what my training in school was, and then I merged what I love to do, which is talking to people. So I now make a living talking to people about money and about finance. So it's never that complicated. Most people are looking for deep purposes,
yeah,
you know,
yeah.
but it's just something that you do so naturally. So that's why I keep saying we need to think out of the employment box.
Very
as long
true.
as you're within the employment box, you might never see the possibilities with your natural giftings and inclinations.
I love what Susan is sharing with us. You know, even as we talk about school fees and different alternatives, it may seem like we are out of topic, but really we are not, because many times we are blind to the things that come naturally to us, and those things that come naturally to us may be another source of income that we are ignoring.
Yes.
You are a good cook.
Yes.
That could be where the school fees ought to come from, you know, or you're good with children. That may be where you're good at organizing. There are people who can organize a room. You get in there and you're thinking like, did you sell some of the things? And no, everything is here. You could organize people's spaces and people's homes. I mean, there's so much we can do. I love that. If you have any questions for us, 20316 is the SMS line, and the WhatsApp number is 0786 316 316. It is the Financial Clinic. Leo ni siku ya clinic ya mfuko. I forgot to tell you, nimeweka bench hapo nje, nimeisanitize, nimeipanguza. Msisukumane, kila mtu aingie mmoja mmoja na maswali yake. We are looking at alternatives for school fees. That's the challenge that parents are facing in this season. School fees and buying resources for your children as they go back to school. In studio with me today via Zoom, Susan Gishuru, founder, CEO of the Legacy Hub Kenya. And your questions are coming through on 20316, WhatsApp 0786 316 316. A couple of questions coming through, Susan. But before we get to the questions, there's something you said when we were beginning, and I want to go back to that. You talked about some practical things parents can do right now, at least to get some liquid cash to be able to send their children to school. Maybe you can talk a bit about that, because I think that's important, and sometimes we overlook some things that may be right here, lakini hatuoni.
Yes. Now, the first thing here is we have two options. Again, as I said, right now, what we can learn from this so that we can be able to make other decisions. But I understand right now there are people who want immediate solutions. Like, I need my kid back to school yesterday. All right. Now, you have two options. The first one, as I said, is we can sell some assets, some items in the house, or liquidate an asset. That's number one. Okay. Now, when it comes, and why I don't usually encourage people to jump into debt, it should be your last solution.
Okay.
Now, when it comes to debt, of course, there's such a thing as good debt and bad debt. And bad debt is money that you take in to actually spend on something that will not give you a return or an income for that matter. But then one of the things I keep telling people is that when it comes to school fees, when it comes to the education of your child, you probably want to explore even the option of debt, for instance, because you might not get the return on your investment with regard to like return, a monetary return or income, but you're going to get a return on your investment in the sense that your child is going to get the education that they need, an education that they deserve. Okay. So now, given that we have exhausted our savings, most of us who had savings, look at what has happened in 2020. So we have already exhausted our savings. So look at your house. There are some items, like some clothes probably that you don't use for your child or your child outgrew. You can try and dispose some of that. You can try dispose of an asset, maybe a car, right? Because in fact, in this season, I've seen quite a lot of people dispose of their cars. Right? Because they prefer, okay, fine, let me just go let me drive using a matatu, I won't die, okay? As a result, you're saying, we have a bit of liquid money. So if you cannot sell off some items from your house, an asset from your house, things that you don't use, you can also liquidate an asset that you have. Because right now, I'd rather you liquidate an asset and find a way to kind of recover the money or recover the asset as opposed to getting into long-term debt. But then I understand that, some people may not have that. You don't have an asset, you don't have, so when it comes to loans, I encourage people to explore the option of interest-free loans, and those only come from family members and friends, okay? They're what are called soft loans, all right? So try and explore. And one of the things I've noticed, and it is a mindset issue that needs to change, a lot of us are not willing to admit that we are in a fix. Okay, a lot of us are willing to, you just want to be macho. And I've seen a lot of this with men. And I believe it's, because you want to be the provider. You don't want to look like, I don't have money, right? But in such tough situations, you need to be honest with your circle. All right. You might not know who is there in a position to help you if you haven't communicated. All right. Make it a point to call your guys, call your family members and request. All right. My child is going back to school. I was wondering if you could lend me some 10,000, and then go to another person. So if you can explore the idea of soft loans before you go to your circle or before you go to your bank, that would really work well. So loans from your family and friends would really come through here, and then get into an agreement. And I love telling people, when it comes to credit, please be honest. All right. I'd rather you tell someone that I'm borrowing this money and I don't know when I'm going to pay you, but I'm going to pay you. So that the person who's loaning you this money knows they have all the facts on the table. All right. They know this person, you don't just, because most of us are like, please lend me this money, I'm going to return to you next month. And that's where frustration begins, because you've made a promise that you are not able to keep. And you know full well that you are not able to keep. So honesty, be honest with your creditors, be honest with your bank. And this is the case even with people who have already loans that they cannot pay. I've seen a lot of people dodging calls from their creditors, dodging calls from their SACCO agent or from their bank agent. And this is where you find yourself, on the CRB. Okay, you're listed there. And so honesty goes a very long way. And I've noticed most Kenyans don't know that. Like, just be honest and say, I'm unable to pay this loan right now. Could you reduce the monthly minimum payment for me? Could you give me a break? And trust me, you're not the first person or the last person who's been in this situation, right? So if you can communicate that to your lenders, but most importantly, while you are borrowing, and especially if you're borrowing from people friends and family, that can bring a lot of strain in relationships.
Very true.
So be very honest So be very honest and tell them, I'm borrowing you this money. I'm not very sure when I'd be able to pay it, but I would try pay it maybe in the next 6 months or in the next 1 year. Could you allow me that? So that also next month, that person is not on your door knocking and you haven't even recovered. All right. So if all that fails, then we have to go to our circles, we have to go to our banks, and then come up with a way of, paying that in the long term, pole.
Okay. I've seen another group of people in a situation like this because Corona affected the whole globe. So even for those who may not really have been affected, it became an excuse. So you didn't really lose your job, your business didn't really go down, but all the children were at home, no one was in school, so you you get into the bandwagon that everybody else seems to be in. And Corona has affected me, so even that money that you were supposed to pay for school fees, sasa inakuwa kubonda raha. And now you're back at the place as, I don't have money for school fees. What would you tell individuals who fit into that category?
Let me tell you something. One of the things that we need, discipline with money, is wanting. Discipline with money is one thing, because, and this is majority of, because most Kenyans, not really most, but that category of people, these are people who spend money we spend money haphazardly. And you remember what I was telling you about the 50-30-20 rule. We didn't talk about the 20%, and this is where the 20% comes. We said 50 goes to mandatory bills and expenses, 30 goes towards savings and investments, and then 20% should go towards debt repayments and entertainment and leisure. All right? Because we don't budget for our entertainment and leisure. And so when we kuna hiyo kitu inaitwa joto ya pesa. When you realize, oh my gosh, I have money.
Inachoma mfuko.
I have money. I've never been this liquid. Okay, I've never been this liquid, and we end up spending. Now, I keep telling people, if you can normalize budgeting for your entertainment, because you say, we are not working so hard so that we can suffer. Oh, and also Jesus didn't die so that we can suffer. We ought to. So if you prefer to take your children out for some lunch on Sundays. Ensure that you budget accurately for that, right?
Yeah.
So can you afford to go to Java? No. But can you afford to go to a joint near your place within your budget? Yes, you can. So when you end up spending more than that 20% of your total income towards debt repayment and entertainment, this is what now happens. Unapata joto ya pesa, right? So you take money that wasn't meant for entertainment and you entertain yourself for it. Now, the truth of the matter is that you will pay for that.
Yeah.
It's sad. It's the hard reality, but you will pay for that, right? And that is why we need to take it very seriously. Now, most people don't fall within that 50, 30, 20, right? Some people, depending on how your bills are, you can do like 40, 40, 20, or even 50, 30, 20, or 50, 40, 20, depending. But be very keen. I keep telling people budgeting shouldn't be something we are afraid of. Budgeting will save our lives. Budgeting will help us in our finances, because budgeting it's not about limiting yourself. Budgeting is intentionally telling your money where to go, as opposed to wondering where it went.
There's somebody,
and that's what most Kenyans are doing. We are wondering where our money has gone to.
We have more months at the end of the money. There's somebody who's saying, sijasikia akiweka tithing kwa hizo percentages zake, hebu tuambie.
That is under mandatory bills and expenses. I mean, the same way because I mean that shouldn't even be an area of discussion.
Yes, that one is set.
Yes.
Okay. I love that. Inviting your questions, my friend. Don't wait until 5 minutes before I run out of time for you to ask me 56 questions. You can throw in your questions right now on 20316, WhatsApp on 0786 316 316. You know, in the next while, Susan, I'd want us to talk about, you know, what are some key lessons we can pick from this season as relates to our finances and planning forward, you know, and how can we begin to change, especially our mindsets and how we organize ourselves where our finances are concerned. Because talking about mindset, we have the belief that unless I have this much money, then I cannot plan. The person with 15,000, 20,000 a month, or the young person you referred to who's just started their job, they're thinking, I have no family, nikubonda raha all through. So what are some key lessons we can pick from this season so that na hapo mbele, if we get something else like this, we are on good ground. We are not sinking like those who did not plan. A very good morning to you. It is the Financial Clinic ya Mfuko. Susan Gishu is with us in studio, giving us some amazing tips and on some of the things we need to do when it comes to school fees and some of the options available, and also how we need to start changing our mindsets when it comes to money. I love the whole issue of putting aside something in the emergency fund, because you never know when an emergency will knock at your door. Now, Susan, I have a question here from Tabby. Tabby is asking advice. Yes. I have savings in the bank, and it's not earning me any good interest. Where is the best place to invest this money? It's around $1 million, Bob.
Okay, that's a very good question. Now, one of the things I keep telling people is that when it comes to saving and investing your money, the most important thing that you should consider, and this is why I love that question, is an aspect referred to as time value of money. And time value of money is a basic financial concept that stipulates that money right now is worth more than the same amount of money in future. And this is because inflation, right? Now, the current rate of inflation is at around 4.9%, which means that the prices of commodities and services and items are going up at the rate of 4.9% on an annual basis. What does that mean for you as a saver or as an investor? That means that if you're putting your money in an account or a financial instrument that doesn't give you an interest rate that is either 4.9 or above, you're actually losing your money with regards to purchasing power, right? Because if inflation is growing at a rate of 4.9%, but my money is not growing at all, then I'm losing money. I'm losing money in terms of purchasing power. Or if my money is only earning like a 4% interest, it means I'm still below the inflation. All right. Now, one of the best places to put your money is what is called a money market fund. Now, what is a money market fund? Most insurance companies and some banks have money market fund options, and a money market fund is generally a financial instrument that pulls money from its investors and invests that money on their behalf.
Yeah.
Now, what's the beauty about money market funds? I'll give you 4 differences quickly between putting your money in a bank and putting your money in a money market fund. The first concern of most people is, how safe is my money, right? Now, banks are regulated by the CBK, and the CBK requires that they provide deposit protection. Now, money market funds, consequently, are also regulated by the CMA, which is the Capital Markets Authority.
Yes.
And as a regulation, they are required to also provide deposit protection. So if you put your 50,000, your 1 million in a money market fund, very rarely, it is almost unheard of that you would lose your capital.
Yeah.
Now, exactly, your money. The second thing is, how soon or how fast can I get my money if I need it? Okay. Now, with banks, we already know this is withdrawing, ATM, mobile banking. With money market funds, most of them are required to process your withdrawal in 2 to 4 working days. And this is why I keep saying, like, for your emergency funds and for your sinking funds, the best place to put your money is in the money market fund, because you don't want that money to be liquid somewhere you can easily access it, because you'll end up using it. But you also don't want to put that money in very risky assets such as the stock market. You want capital preservation. You also want your money to earn a good interest, but you want to be able to access it in under a week. All right? Like people who had already put money in the money market fund and children are going back next week, it's very easy and fast for you to drop an email to CIC or Britam or ICA and tell them, hi, my name is so-and-so, a member of the money market fund, and I'd like to withdraw 20,000 effective immediately. Within 2 to 4 working days, that money is in your bank. So they also provide liquidity. The most important aspect is the interest rate. All right. Now, most banks, if it is a savings account, you get an interest rate that varies between 4 to 6%, 7% sometimes, but that is if you're very lucky or if you have quite a high amount of input. All right. But money market funds rate, they range between 7% to 11.5%. And further to that, there's something called compounding. Your money is compounded in the money market fund, which means that the interest that your money earns you is reinvested back to form a new capital, and then that new capital earns you some more interest, and that some more interest is reinvested back again. So compounding is what I call the 8th wonder of the world. Let me tell you, with it kind of tends to grow your money. So I keep asking people, if your money is as safe in a money market fund as it is in a bank, and you can access it within a week, and the interest rate is much higher than what you would ideally get from a bank, and further to that, you are also going to get compounded interest. What is your money doing in a bank? Right? So we need to be aware of these options that we have. So for what I keep telling people is, if you want capital preservation, but at the same time, you want an interest rate that will compensate you for inflation, money market funds are the way to go.
Okay. So Susan, before we run out of time, the whole school fees issue, with what's happened and the lessons we can learn and moving forward, how should we as parents look at this whole school fees issue? How do we plan better?
Okay, 4 things. Number 1, pay yourself first. I don't think I can overemphasize the importance of saving first before you spend. All right. So number 1, save and invest. And let me tell you something. When the saving culture, people ignore like the small savings, but they go a long way. If, for instance, you decide that I'm going to be saving 500 every month for a child that is born, let's say today. By the time that child is in Form 1, you will have an education fund for them. If you just decide to put 500 shillings aside the moment your child is born. So we need to, you see, kids are not surprises. I mean, I'm married. I mean, and when you're married, or I mean, if you procreate, you'll definitely get kids. So they're not a surprise. They should. And even if that child comes as a surprise, then what does that mean? Readjustment, immediate readjustment. All right. So if you just decide, I'll be putting 500 shillings aside or 1,000 shillings aside while this child is still playing around and crawling. By the time that child is in Form 1, you will already have some money that you're ready to take them to school for. So the savings culture. And another thing, that's the first thing. The second thing is discipline with your money. And I keep telling people, it is not how much you earn, it is what you do with what you have that counts.
Wow.
It's not how much money you earn, it is what you do and with what you have that counts.
Yes.
All right, because if you don't have discipline with 50,000, best believe even with a million, you still won't save, you still won't invest. Again, I said whether you save or invest or not, it's not an issue. It's not an earning issue or an income issue. It is a spending issue.
Yes.
The third thing, understand money and learn the basics of money. That's one of the things I have a problem with believers, because we kind of don't take our time to learn the concepts of money, the concepts of investing. And one of the reasons is because most Christians think that money is evil. And we say that money is the root of all evil. But if you really read your scripture, you realize it isn't money that is the root of all evil. It is the love or the lust of money. The kind of love and the kind of lust that would cause you to kill, to steal, that is the root of all evil. Because the thing is, you'll never excel at something that you do not understand. So if you don't understand money and the basics of saving, budgeting, investing, you will not excel to it. And last but not least, live within your means. Budget for the money that you have. Don't budget for money that is in people's pockets. Don't budget out of wishful thinking. So if I can only afford a bed sitter, I will live with my wife and my child in a bed sitter.
I like that.
All right?
Yeah.
And this is because and I don't care about people's opinions, and we shouldn't, because people's opinions don't pay your bills. You need to live within your means, and people will respect that. All right, you're more respectable when you live within your means than when you're trying to keep up with the Jonases. So those 4 things I think will really help us. But most importantly, I'll really emphasize on taking the time to talk to professionals, taking the time to understand the best savings options you have, the best investment options you have, and just ideally changing our entire mindset. It's called a scarcity mindset. We need to have an abundance mindset, okay? And instead of saying, I don't have enough money, so I can't save, the question ideally should be, how can I restructure my finances in such a way that I can save?
And how can I make more money?
And how can I make more money?
Yeah.
What opportunities are there online? What opportunities are there in my circles? All right?
You know, as we finish, there's something you said there, Susan, that I think is important when you talked about the bed sitter. And it's the fact that I think many of us don't have goals when it comes to our money. You know, we are waiting for that big windfall that will happen, that financial breakthrough that will come from somewhere that will change our lives. I'll never forget one time I hosted a gentleman many, many years ago, and his story impacted me. I keep telling it. And he was telling me how he went to campus. There was a group of them. This is many years back. They graduated, and back at that time, working in the bank was the big thing. So all of them got jobs at the bank. And by then, South B was the place to live, when South B was still new. So the friends, all of them, moved to South B, took loans, bought some Nissan Sunnies. He moved to Githurai in a one-roomed house. And his friends would laugh at him. You know, and to cut a long story short, this guy had a plan, and quite a number of years later, 10, 15 years later, the friends were still living in South B, and they were still paying loans for cars. They had upgraded their vehicles. He was still living in Githurai, but he owned 2 houses in South B.
A piece of land.
No,
Come
2
on,
houses in South B, yes.
Wow.
But he was still living in Githurai. That story, I've never forgotten it. So I think also planning and having a plan of where I want to get to in the next 5 years with my finances. Because if I have a plan, I will not mind living in that bed sit. I know I'm only here for 3 years.
Exactly. And not going with the group mentality.
Yes.
If you're not, I mean, and this is what within your means, not within our means, or within what means are that it is within your means. What can I afford right now with what you have? And I love what you've mentioned about goals, because let me tell you something. If there's nothing bigger than yourself, bigger than your current situation, pushing you to save, pushing you to invest, you won't do it. I keep telling people, show me someone's spending habit and their calendar, and I'll show you their priorities.
Wow. Wow.
You can't tell me that I prioritize my school fees, I prioritize this, that, or the other, when in real sense, all you spend your money on is your hair, looking nice, chilling out with friends. No, show me your spending and your calendar. So are you reading? Are you attending forums in church about money? Are you instead, because let me tell you something. Some people, like you will go out with your friends and spend 2,500 or 2,000 just eating, chilling. By the time you leave and come back, you don't have that 2,500. But you come to my budgeting 101 class, I tell you to pay 2,500 and you're feeling this is too much money. Money that will impact your life for the rest of your life. Right? It's going to impact your generation and your legacy, because I'll change your mindset. I will show you things that you haven't seen before, right? But then you feel, and that's the thing. That's why I say, look at someone's spending and their calendar, and you'll know their priorities. Because I see a lot of my clients, and it humbles me. You know, they forfeit going out with their friends. They forfeit buying that shoe or that clothes, and they come to class. And when they come to class and learn this thing, most of them tell me, Susan, you should charge us more for this. Why don't they teach us this in school? Right?
Yes.
So your priorities, exactly. Your calendar and your spending habits will really show you your priorities, not what you say, it is what you do.
Wow. Susan Gishuru, thank you so much, founder and CEO of the Legacy Hub Kenya. Do you have a social media platform where people can interact with you?
Definitely. I am on Instagram, Susan Wanjiku. I have every Friday I post educational content about money, finances, investment. It's called Finance Friday on my IGTV. So on my Facebook, it's still Susan Wanjiku. On LinkedIn, it is Susan Wanjiku. And you can also find my website on www.thelegacyhub.co.ke. Everything we do is on there on that website. I really look forward to interacting with some of the listeners.
Awesome.
Today.
Susan, thank you so much for being our guest this morning. We have been enriched. Unfortunately, my friend, all good things come to an end.
For this and more of our shows, log on to www.familymediaonline.com to enjoy a wide variety of programs, from current affairs to testimonials and features, pastoral and inspirational shows, kids entertainment, and so much more. Also stream live on www.familymedia.tv.